I am very excited because I will do this from now on every Saturday. And why I am doing this? Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Sabine Kvenberg, also known as the storytelling dame from Germany. Because as a former actress and director, I know the power of stories. I have been a storyteller my whole life. As an actress, as a director, for over 2 decades, I directed and produced shows here in the States and across the world, actually, over 3 decades, if I put it all together. And it is fascinating to me. And we learn through stories, we are entertained through stories. And I used this my whole life. So, this episode, the Saturday Live, is about the journey of Gumption. And that is the latest book. And that's my memoir. So let me show it to you so you know what I'm talking about. Gumption, a memoir. Sacred whispers, bold moves, and the courage to become. So sometimes people ask me, what is this all about? Well, obviously, it's a memoir, meaning life lessons learned turned into practical applications that the readers can take or leave, just reading the stories. But how can I explain it for those who don't know me yet? But maybe you have read some of the other books. Chicken Soup for the Soul, which are beautiful stories and everyone is inspiring and has some lessons in it. Think and Grow Rich, a book that I have read several times from the famous Napoleon Hill. And that gives us so many insights of how the successful people are applying those principles that makes life successful. And it's not only applied to money, but of course it is as well, but Think and Grow Rich, meaning living a rich life. It's not just for accumulating more money. Even that is a great side effect if you have a serving heart. And then the third book that I also found very fascinating is The Secret, where they kind of pull everything together, but the spiritual part is a big part of it as well. And I'm sharing that in my book too. So that is in a nutshell what my book is about. And over the next few months, until this book is published officially, I mean, you see this book, right? I do have advanced readers' copies. And if you want to be part of this journey, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you how you can also possibly be part of my documentary, because this is all going to be part of a documentary that I put together. And yes, my background as actress, performer, director, producer comes very handy in this journey. And if this sounds interesting to you, I will put a link in the description so you can become part of this journey. You can raise your hand and say, hey, Sabina, I'm interested. I want to learn more. And of course, you will as you continue listening to me here. But that is the reason for me putting on Saturday Live. Not only to talk about the book, not only to share some of the lessons, I will read some of the chapters or a part of the chapters, but I'm also going to invite people that have been part of the book, either part of my journey or have written the foreword or the praise or the what you might call it, the introduction, and some of them have given me beautiful, beautiful endorsements. So all of this is something I want you to experience, but at the same time, you will learn what it takes to become a best-selling author, what it takes to become an author, period. Maybe some of you have not even written a book yet, but always thought of it. And it is easier than you think. So this is not my first book that I wrote. I started out when I had my performing arts school here in the United States. And I helmed that for 27 years, by the way. And through that period, I also had an agency. So I helped aspiring actors, performers, singers, dancers to get their start in the entertainment industry. And one thing I've learned, and that is, why are some people successful and others not? They went through the same training. They're equally talented, each in their own particular way. But what makes one different from the other? The one meaning they get hired, they stay and continue pursuing their dreams of becoming an entertainer. And then I realized 20% is talent and 80% is your mindset, your attitude, your goal setting. If you plan right, your attitude, everything combined, and having a plan. So I started out putting together a workbook for my performers. And then I started giving presentations and talks, and people wanted to have something as well. So I thought, well, why not write a book or make that into a book? And that is my first book that I published. And you see it there in the background, Secrets on How to Succeed in Showbiz. So that's how I got started becoming an author. And my goal was not to become a best-selling author. My goal was to have a physical book in my hand that I could hand out to people. And then I started talking in front of other audiences, and they wanted to have a book, but they're not from the entertainment industry. So I thought, what can I do? Oh, the main part is really at the beginning what you need to do. Having the mindset, having the right attitude, having the right goal setting in place, having a plan, and many other things. So that led me to my second book. It's called Unlock Your Full Potential, 10 Easy Steps to Live the Life You Imagine. And that's right there. You see there on the shelf. And that was a little booklet. Again, I didn't do it to make it a bestseller or even sell it on Amazon back in the day. I mean, this is a long time ago. Oh my gosh, over 20 years ago. And so anyways, why I wanted to have that book is to leave something behind for my audiences after I spoke that they can apply. And what I did is I took the same principles that I had in my book, Secrets on How to Succeed in Showbiz, and then I adapted it a little bit and added to it. And that's when I came up with this booklet, Unlock Your Full Potential. After each chapter, there are 10 easy steps, right? After each chapter, people could then apply what they've learned in that chapter, because I'm very, very big in application. Knowledge is good, but if you don't apply it, it doesn't mean anything. So I'm a very practical person. Maybe that's my German roots. I don't know. Maybe my personality, I don't know, but that's what I do and who I am. So that's how I got started. And then it got really, my German, that developed from there. That led me to the third and to the fourth. Before I talk about the fourth book, if you like what you see and you would like to get notified when I'm live again, just hit the subscribe button and the little bell to be notified, and then you won't miss another episode. yeah, so that was my humble beginning of becoming an author. And that led me to so many beautiful things. And many of those I share in my book, Gumption. And if you are a person who wants to learn more, who wants to experience more, who wants to become more, you are at the right place. Because that's what it's all about. That's what I always felt inside me, inside my heart, my belly. I always knew that there was more in life than just getting up in the morning, going to work, going home at night, doing your chores, whatever. It's sometimes I have to laugh myself or laugh about myself or chuckle and say, yeah, it's written pretty similar. It's a score or chores. Your chores, I think it's chores because scores is when you score a competition or something, right? Anyways, oh, by the way, the other day, I was speaking at a conference at the Podfest Expo in Orlando, and I had a funny conversation with some comedians, and we talked about all the funny things that can happen when you have miscommunication. And having different languages or speaking in different languages, this can happen very quick, very easy, and it can be also very, how shall I say that, sometimes painful or embarrassing. I had my fair share for that, to tell you the truth. But anyways, I uh, I know how challenging it can be if you speak in a language that's not your mother tongue, even though I live here in the United States for many years. And the funny thing is, when I go home, visit my family in Germany, it takes me a couple days to speak fluent German again. I mean, I can speak fluent German, don't get me wrong, but sometimes there comes an English word in there, and then sometimes, oh, what's that word again? What's that word again? Because you forget, and especially when you're in a speaking in a different language, you're learning new things in that language. All of a sudden, you find yourself, oh, I have to translate, yeah, into my mother tongue because I didn't learn that word. So it's quite interesting. Quite interesting. Water. Always drink plenty of water to keep hydrated. That is one of the main things to keep a good, healthy body. Drink plenty of water. So, but I digest. Yeah, I digest too because I just had breakfast, but digress. See, you see it? Here we go again. Oh my goodness. And I didn't even want to go there. But that's the beauty of doing a live, right? You never know what happens. And by the way, right now, I don't see the comments because I'm just doing it on one screen, and I don't know if anybody is watching, but maybe you watch it afterwards, and that's okay too, because then you can put some comments there and I will go back, read them, and I will answer any questions that you may have. Absolutely. So, in any case, where was I? Talking about my journey and Gumption. And I started out by, if you ask the questions, what's next? When you ask the question, what can I do? If you ask the question, what is mine to do? If you want more in life, you are at the right place. Because this is where I was as a youngster in Germany. You see, I went out of school. I was just 16 years old and started working. I started my trade school in business and ended up working for an insurance company. And after I was done with my 2.5 year education, I ended up working as a claim adjuster. And that was not me. And the funny thing is, I just remember that. I always was looking for excitement in my life. And of course, during my school time, I was in various singing groups, acting groups. That's what I love to do. And I always wanted to feel that excitement. I always want to do something extraordinary. I remember I was working behind the desk, and there was a case that came across my desk. And I said, I need to investigate that a little bit more. I wasn't someone who went out, looked at the car or whatever, to then say something. Okay, yes, you can pay this or not, whatever. I was the one behind the screen or on the desk, or behind the desk, I shall say, and started doing all the paperwork and writing the checks and whatnot. But that one case, I said, oh, I just have to see this. So it was on my private time. I was not paid for that. And I went out into this area to check something out. I don't recall all the details, but I mean, I'm just thinking about it, right? That I was always that adventure-seeking person. And said, what am I doing? So, but now you kind of know where I am coming from, right? So after working a couple months at that insurance company, I was so unhappy. I gained weight through boredom snacking. And one day, I found myself staring out of the window, thinking, I cannot do this for the next 40 years. Can you imagine? You're just 20 years old and thinking, oh my God, over 40 years before I retire. That was kind of a panic moment for me, but also a very defining moment because I started asking questions. I didn't know that I asked the question, send it out to the universe, to higher power, to God, whatever you want to call it. But I just asked, what is mine to do? What is it? What's next? And then I forgot about it. But here's the thing. The universe always answers. And I can tell you that because I've been around on this planet for some times. Sometimes it may answer in ways you don't like. But in this case, it answered my question, what is mine to do? So I still remember, like it was yesterday, I was getting out of the subway. It was a warm summer evening. I went down the very familiar street, and in the distance, I saw a familiar face. It was my former drama and music teacher, Mr. Herbst. And he smiled. He gave me that big smile. I said, oh, Sabine, how are you? I said, I'm fine. I'm fine. You know what fine stands for, right? No, I'm not going to repeat it. You probably know the acronym, but it was a moment for me that changed everything. It literally changed my life. So after a little chit chat, he asked me, so Sabine, what are you doing now? Are you still active with your acting group, with your singing group, with your duo? I had a duo. And I said, no. And then he said one thing that changed my life. He said, what a shame, Sabine. You are so talented. Wow. I think, well, he's right. He said, don't waste it. That was the defining moment for me. After we departed, I went home, opened up the yellow pages, and called or looked for acting schools. I had absolutely no idea how to start a career in the entertainment industry, how to become an actress. I was very naive. I thought, well, you have to be discovered. Of course, yes, you have to be discovered at one point or another, but there's a lot of work that you put in there. And today I call it the invisible stage work before you even get onto the visible stage. And by the way, it's not just for performers, it's for everybody in life. If you want to become successful in your business, you have to do the work on the invisible stage so that you can then step out into quote unquote the spotlight, meaning in front of your ideal future clients or your boss or wherever you have anyone watching you or listen to you, right? That's what I call the invisible stage work we have to do. And I'm going to go also in detail in my book about that so you can learn all about it and how it applies. So going back to my story, I called an acting school and scheduled an audition. I had no idea how to audition. My family, there was no background, anything to do with entertainment. I grew up in a lower middle class family. In today's standard, you probably would say low class. But back then, it was still considered lower middle class. And so I had to do it on my own. And I had no idea. But then I remembered, we read that play in German class. So I found that little booklet that we had, and I looked for the biggest paragraph, and I memorized that. And I even memorized more. I memorized the other paragraph and the other paragraph. It was a scene, so I memorized the whole scene. And when it came to audition, I played both characters, the man and the woman. It was hilarious. But it probably was so funny, and I didn't know that I had that funny bone inside of me, but I was accepted. Wow. So I told my family. Oh. And you may also recognize those people who want to protect you. They said, don't do it, Sabine. Oh, you will starve to death. You will never make money. And all the scandals and everything they could say. Not because they don't wish me success, but they know I had a safe and secure job. That's the only thing they knew. And I said, okay, but I wanted to at least give it a try, right? And I said, look, guys, I don't want to look back 40 years from now thinking, why didn't I at least give it a try? So I made a little compromise. I said, okay, they have like a half education to get started, right? I'm just gonna see how it works. 2 weeks in, I know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I switched right away to the full education. And that's what I did. And I became an actress. Now, was it easy? No. I had to pay. It was a private school, by the way. I had to pay for my school. So I had to keep my full-time job for another 2.5 years. And then the last half year, I did like different odd jobs. So to just keep the money flowing, right? But this is, again, that's the invisible stage work that we have to do. Whatever it takes. If you want to change career, if you want to start your own business, perhaps, because today it hasn't been easier with what we have in front of us. You know, the the World Wide Web, this little piece here, right? It's so easy to start your own business. But at the same time, it also became harder because when something is easy to do, more people flock to it. So it makes it harder for you to stand out. But that's where I specialize in. I help people to stand out from the crowd. And how do you do this? By knowing exactly what your personality is, your uniqueness is, and how to share your message in the most effective way. And as a communication and confidence coach, as a speaker, as a business professional, and also somewhat AI savvy person, because I incorporate AI into my business as well. So I can help you with all of that. But why am I saying that? First, you have to make a decision. Yes, that's what I want to do. But then be smart about it. Keep your full-time job or whatever job you have to get food on the table. And then the extra time that you have, focus on the career change, focus on the business that you want to build, the book you want to write, whatever it is for you. And that is how it all got started. So I gave you a little glimpse here into the beginning part of the book. And as you know now, I live in the United States. I had a very successful business, a performing arts school, an agency in the United States. And now I help entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs to effectively share their message, to create their signature talks, to help them get on stages, help them become more confident speaking in front of their teams. And I love it. I love every minute. I have been a coach, a teacher my whole life. And it started out very young, which there's one story that I share in my book as well. When I was just 12 years old, I became the leader in that very instant, that very scary experience that we had there. But my friend, oh, wow, this is all the time I have today, because I just wanted to do this for 30 minutes to share my story, to invite you to become part of the journey. Because if you want to get an advanced reader's copy, just go and do a pre-order. I put a link in the show notes. You can get it anywhere. But if you pre-order it, and if you are in the States, I invite you to pre-order it at Barnes and Nobles, and I will share with you the reason why at a later video. But if you want to get this advanced copy, pre-order it at Barnes and Noble. Take a screenshot of your receipt and send it to me. Send it to Sabine at sabinekvenberg.com. And then I will give you a link to download the ebook version so you can read it right away. And then if you like to come on as my guest at any of the future lives that I'm doing to discuss one chapter or to talk about a topic or ask me any questions, you can do that. All right? So I hope it was somewhat entertaining for you. And if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. I will read every single comment and question and will reply back to you. And of course, if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Share it with someone that you think could benefit from it or would enjoy it just listening to some of the stories I share. And hit the little bell so you are being notified the next time I'm going to be live. It was a pleasure being here today with you and starting this journey. Gumption, because I know you have gumption inside of you. Everyone has it. We just have to tickle it out and make it stronger. All right, my friend, That's it for today, and I'll see you next Saturday.